it'll fire a lot easier. But those things, when it's like 20 below, 25 below, and they hit the end of your fingers, they smart a little.
It does hurt.
Yeah.
I also wanted to mention, just while we have this slide, I guess, there were some people yesterday talking about how sometimes the trigger, and the trigger being this device right here holding the spring closed, so it's loaded. The trigger's sometimes not releasing or firing. So I'm of the opinion it's really important to have the trigger, so it's going through the trigger on the outside. The tooth is going towards the breakaway. When this is around the neck and tight, this point is stiff, it doesn't move. It's butted up against the base of the neck. So it's like a hard surface that this tooth will push against, and it almost pushes it off of the spring. It's not just about compressing the spring, it like kicks it off because it doesn't want it there. If you have it reversed and have this tooth to the outside, there's nothing pushing it off, and this is not a immovable point. It actually can teeter and move around, and so the only thing causing this tooth to pop is further compression of the spring. There's no assist from it pushing against a solid point. Does that make sense to everybody? And I really find that makes a difference. It's also, if you forget your setting tool, you can set these just a pair of pliers if they're set this way, and in the reverse you can't. So it's helpful for a few reasons.
Yeah. And a lot of trappers, like I say, we're cheap. We want to cheap out. If you're using the Magnum springs especially, you want to make sure that you have double furrows here. Otherwise, if you're not crimping that furrow properly, it'll just blow the whole thing right apart. That'll make you another unhappy camper. So we're going to cover it a little bit again here. Then you guys are going to be building this. Then we'll probably get into leg holding. I'll show you a little bit on safe ways to handle the leg holds a bit. And then we'll probably be heading outside. So we'll build this. We'll get this done. Build the snares first. And the reason why I'm going over this again, some of you haven't actually used snares before, and it's really critical that we get this properly. And also, when you go out in the field, each and every one of you are going to have to set a snare so that we can see that you guys are doing it right. There are way too many people out there, and we're not saying you guys are going to be doing it, that are just throwing snares out. They're not setting them properly. Animals are getting caught the wrong way and stuff. You see a moose or a lynx with a great big ball of snow on it because it's been caught by the foot in the snare and it's actually broke the snare. And so as it's dragging through the snare, especially in southern Alberta here, the warm and the cold, it freezes up, and it can be like when you see a piece of wire on a moose's foot and there's a ball that he's dragging that big, that's not good. And we all know that everybody carries the phone with a camera nowadays, and there are people that just going around, and I've actually even had people come into the course. I don't know, maybe Tom's one of those guys, friends of the wolf, right? And they critique in every word you say, and if they can twist what you say or what you do to their benefit, they'll do that. They will forget all the stuff that you're talking about, but trappers want to be the most humane, efficient, conservative people on the landscape. They'll miss that whole point when they put their stuff together, right? So
I'm one of those guys with my video camera.
Yeah. You got Duncan, eh? Yeah. To ensure trappers are using the most proficient snaring equipment, lots of people say, well, why do I need that? Or that's too much garbage, it scares the wolf away. If you're setting up your snares properly and everything, and you're making a decent loop, and you're always going to get one or two that have been educated. Those ones are a little bit harder to catch. And just like my friend from up in Slave Lake. He took my course and he had trouble with wolves going into his bait stations, and he bought 4 wolf traps, and he never used them till the last week of the season. And he sent me a picture. He couldn't believe it, that he set all 4 wolf traps and he had 4 wolves 2 days later, which is very rare that you're going to make a catch like that. But at least it convinced him that when he has trouble with snaring, once he caught those 4 wolves, there was no more problem with those wolves coming into, the rest of those wolves coming into, and that's how much wolves can interchange, and they can teach each other. Just like that wolf I was telling you about that had that stick in his mouth walking through the trees, right? Like, who would have thought an animal would have ever thought to do that? But they had the picture of him, and it had that link snare around its neck that it had broke. So we want to try and release non-target species, especially. It's not good if you're doing problem wolf control for a rancher and you kill his prize bull or even a yearling, and that. The price of beef nowadays and that. If a rancher's got to put down a yearling because there's a snare wrapped around his foot and it's cut off the circulation, that's not a good deal for any of us. Cohesive information and resources for trappers and all stakeholders, that makes a huge difference. And if at all possible, if you guys have some problems or whatever, I'm willing, if I've got some time and we can make an arrangement, I'm willing to come out. I don't have all the answers, but to try to come out with you and help you a bit with some of the stuff that you might be having problems with. Because we just can't cover it all in 2 days. It's just impossible. But it'll give you a really good understanding. So clear understanding of the necessary components used in the snare. And I don't think it's going to be very long, and the free hanging snare without your kill spring and all that stuff is going to be illegal.
Yeah, I would expect that within the next 2 years.
Yeah. Snares need to be anchored solid. Once again, that's a really big issue. Not just snares, leg hold traps, any kind of, even a killing device like pine marten, that. When you have a cougar come in town, somebody set a wolverine set with a 330 cotter bear in one of those milk container bottles, you know, those plastic containers I'm talking about, and the cougar drags it into town and it's around his neck and he crawls underneath somebody's porch. That doesn't make it look good for anybody. So length of snare allows for a greater force to potentially trigger off your kill spring. Once again, sometimes more is not good. Like this gentleman here, he went to 1,000-pound breakaways and he had lost 3 wolves and he was really mad. Well, when he sent in a snare for us to check and see, it was a 20-foot snare. Like, I mean, if you can run from here to that fridge, can you imagine the potential and the power that animal has in that? Chances of entanglement, so that can make a difference too on what you're setting and where you're setting your snares. And it can be good and bad. So any kind of entanglement that you think you want to tangle up an animal in, if it's got that fishing effect, like a fishing rod, you don't want that, right? You're better off to use an anchor that's in the ground, like a disposable anchor. I've got a couple here that I'll pass around and show you guys. You can build your own and whatever, but that can really make a difference. So snares killed by cutting off the blood flow to the brain. That's what we want. And asphyxiation. So both of them, the animal dies a lot quicker. It makes it a lot easier for you guys And we want to respect the animals that are out there. We want to respect whatever we're catching, and we want to be able to use that. Smaller loop size sometimes results in a higher neck catch, but like Duncan was telling you, lots of times your snare height can make a huge difference whether you're catching them tight to the neck or you're catching them further back, where there's more muscle for the snare to try to get to occlude the arteries. So loop height can be more important than that, and cable size also makes a difference. Large cable has higher breaking strength, but lots of times it doesn't kill as quick. And so we're trying to find the best middle ground. And that's one good thing is that we have our trap testing station and all the snares and everything. They've been tested. From last I heard from Ross, our snares are probably going to be accepted right across Canada as being legal. The only thing they have left to test is the timber wolf. But as far as the eastern wolf and coyotes, that's going to go through, and they're talking about changing the legislation in other provinces so that it can go through.
Did you like this video? If you did, I think you're gonna like this one right over here. So check it out. And I appreciate your subscribing if you haven't done so already. Remember to do that while you're watching this next video. Click like, it all helps us out for this channel. Catch you next time.